we're talking now transformation from you figured out how to find 200s in Ohio.
So you've killed one 200-incher in Ohio at this point, right?
That's correct.
The year was roughly
2018.
That deer, that was 2018, and that deer scored. He was the 215.
Yep.
It wasn't wires, right?
Yeah, it was wires.
Yeah.
So that wires deer is the one you killed in Ohio. That was your first 200-incher that you killed.
That was my first 200-inch deer.
And your buddy killed a 193, and then you left Ohio. And okay, that's where we're at. I'm caught up now.
Yeah, and so we moved to Iowa, and we buy a farm. We buy a house near the city.
Purely for deer hunting,
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, is it purely a deer hunting move to Iowa?
100%.
Yep.
My buddy killing that 193, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I put in all this work and effort, all for one deer. If I move to Iowa, I can put in the same amount of effort and get 3 deer.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, we're moving to Iowa. So, but I told my wife, and I told my wife, I was like, listen, we can't just move for deer. That seems really stupid.
Can we?
Yeah. Pack your shit, like, Sarah. We're moving.
I'm like, really? Am I that obsessed with whitetails that I'm going to move strictly for the deer? And I'm like, the answer is yes, of course. But
yes.
I couldn't justify that with my wife. And so I said, let's go visit the city. And so we went to West Des Moines, and we absolutely loved it. Amazing school districts. We didn't have kids at the time, but we were like, we'll have kids. Amazing school districts. The people were just, there's a thing people say, Iowa nice, it's real. There's no traffic, even when it's busy. I was like, this is the place we want to build a family. I mean, this is amazing. The gym environment was incredible. Like, it was weird. Like, you think Iowa's just a bunch of cornfields, but everything's new and clean and just really, really good. And so we moved in 2019, and I was like, okay, we loved our house. Everything worked out perfectly. We lived on like 10 acres near the city, and then we bought the neighboring 10 acres. So we ended up getting about 22 acres there. But then we went and we found our first farm. And so the first year we bought our first farm, and then I leased one farm. And so the farm I leased, that was really difficult because there was no food plots on it. It was just all CRP summer grass. But that year is where I killed lightning back there, was on that leased ground, which I bought that year. So I ended up buying that farm too. So that's why I technically can say I've shot all the deer on ground that I own. But that year was the year I killed him. Technically, I leased it, but by the end of that year, I'd owned that farm.
Wow.
But it was all summer grass, no food plots, nothing. And I didn't grow that deer. He just got that big.
How far from your house were those properties?
Over 2 hours.
Yeah. That makes
it
a challenge, man.
Dude, you're telling me. So that's step one. I spread my farms out because EHD hit us the first year. I said, this is different. We don't have this in Ohio. I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, okay, so now how long is it going to take for this farm to get reset?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah,
this
5
is gonna
years.
suck. I'm like, no. So I own farms all the way out in Appanoose County and all the way out in Ringgold County, which are hours away. So most of my farms, one direction's 2 hours, this direction 2 hours. We did it down in central Iowa, up near I mean, literally they're all spread out. I do not own ground very close together, and this is important. But the real secret and
we're bracing for it, Josh. Don't lead us into this thing and let us down. Come on.
I hate to say this because this is going to screw me for the future, but
not that many people listen to the podcast, if that helps.
Well, this is really special. So most people want a neighbor like a Mark Jury, a Lee Lakowski, a Josh Bowmar. Those are the worst neighbors you could have. If you want to kill giant deer, you need to go to the lowest income areas, where it's brown, it's down counties. And you're going to think that is the dumbest thing in the world. But let me tell you why this is so important. Because if it's brown, it's down. The first 140 that comes by, that person shoots them, shoots that deer. They're not hunting anymore. And so you get a Lee Lakowski or Mark Jury, or you plug it in, a Steve Snow. I mean, my God, all those, the greats, those guys, They have every resource every time. They have every camera, every food plot. They leave all the grain to kill those deer.
Right.
The odds of you getting that deer is very rare. The odds of deer reaching maturity is high, but the odds of you having the sanctuary or the best farm for him to live there is very low. And so step one to finding a 200 is go to the areas where it's browns down, low income areas, because you're going to be the only guy with a food plot for a quarter mile or miles. You're going to be the only guy that can leave grain. You're going to be the only guy that has the best of the best farm. And for deer, including 200-inch deer, their currency, if we were talking like money, their currency is their age, their body size, and their antler size. So you think about in terms of currency with people, our currency is money.
Mm-hmm.
The more money you have, what do you get? The nicer house, the more convenient house that's located close to the city. You get the better food. You get to eat at the nicest restaurants. Well, you take that same concept and put into a deer. What do? They get the best bedding areas. They get the best food plots, the best farms that are set up for their habitat. And so that's how you build a place. You don't necessarily grow a 200. You build a place, you build it, they will come. And in those areas, over a course of miles of acreage, those big giant deer will move into the best farms. Mm. But if you got a Mark Jury as a neighbor, you got a Lee Lakowski, they got endless resources and unbelievable opportunity everywhere. Right. They're not going to just stay on your farm. So it's better to own small farms, build them up, get them big in the low income areas where no one else is doing food plots, no one else is doing those things. You'll pull in the best of the genetics, and then you just don't shoot booners. That's the other thing.
I mean,
you don't shoot them when they're 4 years old.
I think, Josh, to the, obviously we joke now about the whole, pregnant does thing, but per that strategy, right? It makes sense why neighbors of yours would say, there ain't no way he's killing those deer naturally. And because your strategy is not buying in what is known as a prime area, right? I mean, it isn't.
I avoid those areas.
I mean, your neighbors are only seeing 120s and 140s, and that's what they're killing because it's a brown and down area, right? It's not, you're not in the neighborhood where you're used to seeing 170-inch plus deer.
Right. I actually just sold my farm that had the best neighbors on the planet. Yeah. Central Iowa, right outside Leon. I mean, freaking everything you could ever want. But all my neighbors were excellent deer hunters, and I hated it. I had a 200 on that farm that the first year, and I screwed up at 40 yards. A freaking long story, but screwed it up. And I hated that farm because of that reason. The neighbors would always kill giant deer. All my farms where all my neighbors, are traditionally the blue collar, which I love these guys. They're hard workers. They work too much during the week and they only get to hunt the weekends. They're not going to hold out for a booner. If they see a booner, they will shoot it, but they're going to shoot the first 140 that comes by, and they're very happy and proud of that. And those are my people. I love those guys. I want those as my neighbors.
That makes sense, man. I mean, when you think about it is. I mean, it makes a lot of sense from a grand scheme of what you're trying to do.
It's super interesting because it makes perfect sense, and it's not rocket science, but it's interesting that you came across that strategy, and I'm curious to hear how long it took you because I don't see the same being possible in a bait state like Ohio, which is where you came from, because that is what they do. It
doesn't matter what you buy.
Any track can be the best track for a week when I dump 5,000 pounds of corn.
Right. And so the secret with Ohio is enough spots. If you want to find a 200 every single year, you need 60 to 70 different spots.
Yeah.
That's the numbers that I came up with based on what I found. And everyone that kills deer consistently that are 200 plus, they have between 50 and 70 different spots, different deer herds, different locations.
Yeah.
And it is like the Eskers, Hayes, all those guys, and that kill consistently really big deer. They all have it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And you got to get a ton of spots. And with Iowa, you don't necessarily, it's still a numbers game, but to kill a 200, it takes way more effort and way more work, because now your farm, you have to build all the things that make it the best place that a deer with the most currency wants to live.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how summer grasses, what food are you planting? Are you only leaving grain so your farm sucks all until late season? Like you got to build all this stuff up. And so how I strategize all my farms, I plant apple trees. I mean, I planted 627 apple trees on all my farms. And it's crazy. And so planted all those trees. I plant food plots strategically based on how a certain deer is being patterned. So some deer you get early season, some deer don't move in till late. If I got a deer, for example, Superstar, I killed 2 seasons ago, that 204 or 206, I can't remember. I think he officially went like 201, but that deer, he loved me early season. He left me late season. So I planted all my food plots without even knowing if he was alive or dead. I planted everything in the area he wanted for early season. And the secret with that is you plant very high water-rich foods. So a brassica blend, I plant kale, I plant everything that holds a lot of water, because traditionally early season, if it's dry, they don't want to have to walk all the way down to the bottom of places to drink every time they eat. If they can get a lot of moisture from their food, you're going to be in a much better situation that they're going to be hitting your food plots. But then I do it even better. I put a watering hole on top.
Yeah.
I friggin' dig a giant watering hole, and you could do this with a shovel. It would suck. You don't need a backhoe.
Yeah.
But bribe the guy that's got a backhoe with cleaning his yard, do whatever you got to do to get him to come over. There's ways of doing everything I'm saying for little to no money. It's just a matter of if you want to work hard enough. And that's the part that just gets hard, because it's like, I don't want to dig a watering hole. Well, you can't complain then, if you don't have one. It does suck. But anyway, so the point is I would plant plant the food plots, put in the watering holes, position my food plots to where that watering hole now is very valuable. It's far away from all the watering sources, because the step one with killing a 200-inch deer is you got to find a 200-inch deer.
Yep.
A lot of guys have giant deer on their properties and they just don't know they are there because their cameras aren't in the right spot.
Right.
I learned this a ton in Ohio when we could bait. 100 yards can make all the difference.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that double drop time deer, for example, I had corn out in this field all season. Didn't have it, flipped it over on the inside of the fence to where it was in the timber. And then boom, 3 days later, I got that deer on camera. He was there the whole time. He just never walked that edge back and forth. I moved the camera 50 yards and it got into his realm. He didn't feel comfortable, come to find out, because people were poaching off the cemetery.
Sure.
They were shooting at high-powered rifles. Yeah. And so he was smart and wouldn't come out into the field. And so it's crazy. So 100 yards makes a difference. So with season, you really got to front load your time with cameras to find the deer. And then once you find a deer or a potential 200 that could be a 200 in years to come, you got to make sure everything's set up for that for years to come. And that's what we've done with all of our farms. We've optimized them with TSI work and food plots and grain and you name it, we've done it. And then I feed them in the off season. So the day season goes out, I make sure those deer have everything they need from a nutrition standpoint. The second their horns drop till I usually pull all my stuff like the end of March, just because with turkeys, I don't want any feed on the farms for turkey season. Then turkey season's over, I go back to feeding. But a lot of guys, they don't start feeding until their horns are popping. Yeah. And the reason is because it's not fun to get shed bucks on camera. Yeah. But if you break down the entire year of a deer's life of that year in terms of antler growth, a lot of people don't realize is that time when they shed their antlers to that point of like April, that is when they're induced the most amount of stress.
Oh, absolutely.
And as a bodybuilder, if you have high stress levels, the number one thing that you learn is you do not build muscle very easily. Yeah. You put your body in a state of
preservation.
Disease. Not literally disease, but like dis-ease. And then that creates an immune system response that's just not good. You're not as healthy. You won't grow. And so you give that little window of opportunity for them and you get them feeding from the time they drop their sheds, until there's enough vegetation growing. That right there will allow you to get a huge bump in their antler health and everything else. Yeah. And so there's quite a few things we can circle back on and kind of go over, but
let's do this one real quick. The main question I have, Josh, is in relation to the neighborhoods that you're looking at. I know you said like lower income, but ultimately what you mean is it's one of two things or both. Is it the hunting style that your neighbors are employing, or is it literally the quality of habitat or lack thereof?
So for one, for a 200-inch deer, they got to have the genetics and all that stuff, right? So the things I look for is body weight, body size. You get a place that grows really heavy deer, and you can see this from the road. Like, geez, that's a freaking big doe. Look at the size of that thing. It seems like this section of area, there's just like monster body deer.
Mm-hmm.
Those deer are going to grow bigger racks than most deer. And the reason is their bone structure is bigger. And so bigger bone structures, bigger skull plates, bigger antlers. They won't necessarily look as big.
Do you see that happening, Josh? I'm sorry to cut you off. I mean, I can't say that I've necessarily been like noticed pockets of bigger deer just from county to county. You see that a lot out there?
Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%.
Interesting.
You just got to look with intent. And most people are looking at their antlers, not looking at their body size. And so you go out there, like some of my farms, if I shoot a 220-pound deer on it, that's a big deer. Out on some of my farms, the both 200s I killed off this one farm, the one weighed 286 pounds, the other one weighed 290 pounds.
Jeez.
And so monster body deer. I mean, the taxidermist for the one, he said he had to make a custom mold just because around where this part of his neck, right here, right at the base of the jaw, was 27 inches around.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about huge bone structure, and that's where you get really, really heavy deer, and they just grow antler a little easier.
What do we think is the reason for that?
Well, no different.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like 5 miles one direction, 5 miles the other, or bigger? Because everybody knows, like Canadian deer, the further north you go, bigger bone, and further south is the smaller they are. But I hadn't necessarily heard like from one county to the next.
Well, I mean, I think it's just tied to nutrition overall. It's like if you go to southeast Kansas, right? I mean, there's some giant bodied deer in southeast Kansas when we hunt. But if you go to some of the other parts of Kansas, you won't see nearly as big a body weight. It's probably nutritionally oriented, soil quality carried over into the natural forage and obviously crops in the area.
It's primarily nutritionally based?
I would assume, yeah, because go down to the coast of...
to it, though.
Yeah.
There's got to be, because I feed all my deer the same and they leave the same, and it's just some farms in these little pockets just consistently produce 280-plus pound deer.
What are you feeding, Josh? Protein? Just protein?
Bowmar Nutrition.
Bowmar pellets.
Protein is not the number one thing that makes a deer's rack grow. So a lot of people think that, but it's not. It's actually more mineral based, calcium based. You feed dical, which is an immune phosphorus support system.
Mm-hmm.
I look at a deer different. I don't look at what grows his antlers. I look at what makes him the most healthy.
Yep.
What can I feed him that's going to give him the best chance to fight off things that are going to stop his antlers from growing, sicknesses, stuff like that. So I feed him probiotic rich foods. Analogics is good. You can make your own stuff. Probiotics, a lot of minerals that help like fingernails grow, things like that. That's all that is, big fingernail. And then immune system supporters, different vitamins and minerals that are best for those. And so this stuff's not expensive, which it sounds like it is, but it's not. It's just the problem is you got to get close enough to where that deer will eat that stuff at least a couple times. I was gonna say
that's the big thing that because people will put one feeder out on 1,000 acres and they'll be like, oh well, I'm feeding that thing. Well, I mean the deer's eating a lot of other stuff. Right. Versus that one feeder.
Is it a proprietary like blend, Josh? Or you said Analogics has some stuff, or
I'll send it to you. I don't want to give away all the good stuff, but yeah, I'll send it to you off podcast and you can feed the same stuff I feed. I honestly don't know if it makes a huge difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, but why not? Why not max them out on these things that they need? Because protein's the one thing everybody jumps to. And although critical, most deer shit out more protein than they need, right? I mean, they take in so much of it. There's only so much their body can process. It's not like if you gave them, 40% protein all the time that they're just putting that straight to body and antlers. It's going to waste.
The precautionary measures or like the protecting them from things like whatever it would be, worms or even like limes and tick disease. And I don't know, maybe those things are way more resistant.
Well, stress. I mean, to Josh's
certainly
stress oriented. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, even just a water hole that is easily accessible during a period of drought is a huge stress reliever for an animal.
Yeah, and I mean, I get made fun of for doing this all the time, but I put fly traps all over my farms.
Yeah,
and
I'm guilty of making fun of you for it.
Yeah, oh, sure. And I deserve it. It looks stupid. Of course, I'm shirtless, and it doesn't help things, you know, and videos. And so that makes it way worse. But, man, I mean, I kill 4 or 5 million flies off my farm. You know, that's got to make a difference. That can't be fun for them.
Well, I mean, look at the tick aspect. I mean, we've all seen a deer that, you know, its ticks are just, you know, or its ears are just covered in ticks and stuff. Like, we know that makes an impact on the stress of that animal.
Well, dude, I
from
think
a health side.
You're the biologist, so you tell me. But like, dude, look at even in third world countries. I know humans get like worms in their stomachs and intestines that like eat a majority of their nutrition. They don't have the ability to like apply that to their own health. It's they have a parasite.
Right.
Correct.
The same happens with deer, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Ruminants, worms.
And to my knowledge, there is no way to address that without over medicating the animal.
Well, so
right?
for like from a cattle standpoint, they feed things like Safeguard.
Yeah.
Right. And we would do it when we did research at the university deer pens and stuff. We would feed our deer Safeguard pellets to help with that deworming process.
And you controlled the amount that they were getting, though.
You would mix it in proportionary to the protein feed that they were getting. And that goes back to what Josh was saying, because in a fenced in 2 acres, right, I can control what that deer eats. Yeah, there's some clover, but other than that, he's eating the pellets, right? There's nothing else in there. When you take that deer into a real world setting, you know, he's browsing, he's nipping, he's doing everything the whole way from his bed to the feeder back. Like, it's hard to control how much he's getting.
Yeah, and that's going to be where you got to front load a lot and have, like, when it starts out in summer, to find the deer, I run 15, 20 different, you know, feeding sites. And I don't run mineral in the summertime other than very select few spots on my farm, just because it's a real pain in the ass covering all that stuff up, making sure they're tarped and palleted. And that way no deer get to them in Iowa. We have to do that. And so it's a pain. But I find the deer. Once I find the deer, then I start honing in on that to where he's feeding there every single day. So then I know the nutrition wise, he's getting there. He's getting as healthy as possible. He's most likely to fight off EHD and all of those things. And so that's where finding the deer is the hardest step in that scenario.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. It just takes a lot of scouting effort and understanding deer behavior and knowing like, okay, this deer is most likely to live here because this is the best bedding area. And you start there, but sometimes they're not there. You know, it's kind of deer kind of have their own agendas a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And but sorry, go ahead.
Forgive me. I know we're kind of off the 200 thing for here just for a minute, but this is really interesting. Are you with your bait sites feeders? I assume, right? You taking feeders and you're filling them. No,
I run everything on the ground because I cannot get those big deer to hit feeders very consistently.
Interesting.
So
how frequently are you having to? I mean, that's got to be a constant maintenance for 20 different feed sites.
It's a lot. So that's just one farm, and there's 8 farms. And so what I do is and so I have a giant seed tender, and this thing is at 12,000 pounds of feed, and I drive that thing all the way back there, do the sighting, do all that, and I do about once a week, depending on whether it's dry or not. Okay. And so, dude, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and then I'm doing all of that also while, you know, working a full-time job, which, you know, for my own businesses and companies and stuff like that. But it's a freaking buttload of effort and work to be able to do all this. But that's just what it takes, you know, if you want to consistently try and find and get a 200 on camera.
Take me